Thanks for joining us. Amsterdam is perhaps Europe's best preserved 17th century city. Yet at the same time, it's got a fun contemporary edge. It's a progressive place, invigorated by a time-honored spirit of live and let live. We'll cruise the canals and bike the back lanes. We'll sample the Dutch masters from Rembrandt to Van Gogh. We'll drop into a coffee shop that doesn't sell coffee. And we'll ponder the red light district. We'll remember Anne Frank. We'll feast on Indonesian food Dutch style. And relax in Amsterdam's Blundell Park. The historic core of Amsterdam remains much the same today as when it was first laid out back in the 1600s. That was Holland's golden age, when Dutch merchant ships made this the world's richest city. Amsterdam's touristy main drag, Gambler, was once the main... It's like a fan, with hundreds of bridges and a series of concentric canals. Wealthy merchants built this city upon millions of wooden pilings, creating a wonderland of canals lined with trees and townhouses crowned with fancy gables. Traditional bridges, like this one which crosses the Amstel River, were built with a clever counterbalance. They were fine-tuned. Bridge keepers bragged they could raise and lower one with a single finger. The city's founders built a dam on the Amstel back in the 13th century. The community that gathered here was named for that Amstel dam. Eventually, Amsterdam. This is where the river hit the sea. From here, boats could sail into the interior of Europe and out to the rest of the world. Dutch merchant ships would sail right up the main canal, loaded down with material delights, silk, spices, and porcelain from faraway lands. Amsterdam's port is still huge, but it's being transformed from a gritty industrial area into a vibrant, modern, and very livable district. A striking film museum and art cinema is bringing new life to this now revitalized neighborhood. You can hop on a free shuttle ferry to see this evolving district, or you can cruise a different way by joining the hedonists and tourists on Amsterdam's many canals. Surprising to me, anyone can hire one of these electric boats for a little independent exploring. For some help with the navigation, I'm joined by my friend and fellow tour guide, Inka Bloom. Tell me about the difficulties building this.
The soil is very swampy, so everything you see with all the houses, all the bridges, and a lot of the canals are built on wooden pilings. It's actually oak wood that comes from the Black Forest in Germany. We have about 100 canals, and they were all dug out in the 17th century entirely by hand. It took them about 30 years. The most important one was the Gentleman's Canal, Herengracht. And then there's the Emperor's Canal, Keizersgracht, and then there's the Prinsen Canal.
This has got to be the most beautiful canal in town.
It's my favorite canal, Rick.
What is this neighborhood called?
It's called the Jordaan, this area.
That is the most characteristic part of
Oh,
Amsterdam.
today it's one of the most popular places to live.
The characteristic Jordaan district offers a quiet slice of Dutch urban life. Built in the 1600s for warehouses and to house workers, it's now home to artists and inviting little restaurants and cafes. Just a few blocks from the busy center, the Jordaan feels like another world. Everything's in its place, and life seems very good. Amsterdam has about 1 million people and as many bikes. This multi-story bike garage is for commuters who ride the train and then pedal to work. This is one of Europe's most bike-friendly cities. Bike lanes run next to the sidewalks, and bikers whiz by silently. Walk carefully. One of the joys of visiting Amsterdam is simply being in this swirl of healthy, busy biking Dutch. Bikers everywhere, doing chores, flirting, delivering, texting. You name it. Around here, it happens on two wheels. The city is decorated with ornate gables. The frugal Dutch made their simple buildings look fancy by adding ornate facades. Amsterdam's famous gables include the Point Gable, Bell Gable, Step Gable, and Neck Gable. 17th century land was expensive, and taxes were based on the width of the house, so the Dutch built skinny and straight up. In a merchant's house, the shop was on the ground floor, the family lived in the middle, and the attic served as a kind of warehouse. With their cramped interiors and steep stairs, houses came with a pulley, so goods could be hoisted up and down on the outside with a rope. That original design still works today. Amsterdam's Rijksmuseum is one of the artistic highlights of Europe. It was built to showcase the art of the Dutch Golden Age. Here we can gain insight into the industrious people who made tiny Holland so prosperous and powerful back in the 17th century. This art is really all about money. The Dutch worked hard, they were brilliant traders, and the wealthy had plenty of money to match their egos. Now, painters earned their living working not for the church or the king, but by painting portraits for local big shops. The great Dutch painter Rembrandt, this is a self-portrait at age 22, earned his money painting portraits. These Dutch masters, actually the Drapers Guild, all paid equally and expected to be portrayed equally. Wearing the standard power suit of the day, it's as if someone walks in and grabs their attention, natural as a snapshot. In Rembrandt's Night Watch, we see another group portrait. But rather than the standard stiff pose, this one bursts with energy. It's the local militia, which was also a fraternity of business bigwigs, a kind of Rotary Club in the 17th century. They tumble out of their hall, weapons drawn, ready to defend their city. While creative and groundbreaking in its composition, some of those who paid the artist, like this guy, were probably none too pleased. This self-portrait of Rembrandt, at age 55, shows a man who's seen it all and woven those experiences into his art. Rembrandt did more than paint for big egos. In this painting, the prophet Jeremiah laments the destruction of Jerusalem. He slumps in defeat, confused and despondent. Rembrandt's use of light to highlight certain details set him apart from other artists of his age. The Rijksmuseum has 4 rare and precious paintings by Johannes Vermeer. Here, the master of tranquility and stillness shows an intimate street from his hometown of Delft. In this quiet painting of an ordinary milkmaid, Vermeer, who brings out the beauty of everyday things, creates a scene where we can almost hear the trickle of the pouring milk. Perhaps for the first time, art catered to the tastes and budgets of middle-class people too. Smaller canvases by no-name artists that a regular merchant could afford to hang in his living room. The work of Jan Steen offers a delightful slice of 17th century Dutch life. No preachy religious or political themes, just light entertainment with a dose of folk wisdom. Here, children teach a cat to dance, mischief on their delighted faces. But their father's upset that they're wasting time. And in Steen's merry family, the parents party while their kids copy their irresponsible behavior. The girls learn to drink, and the little boy picks up smoking. The note warns, parents beware, your children are learning from your bad behavior. This light-handed approach to morality lives on in the Netherlands. Amsterdam has plenty of examples of their progressive approach to subjects many people consider unsavory. And with the local passion for tolerance, it's occasionally shocking. Prepare for some differences. Curbside urinals, prostitutes who are unionized, taxed, and regulated, and coffee shops that sell marijuana. Throughout the Netherlands, places selling marijuana are called coffee shops. For decades now, the Dutch, like many Europeans, view marijuana as a soft drug, like tobacco and alcohol. Marijuana use is tolerated, but hard drugs are strictly forbidden. A lot of people think marijuana is a gateway drug. They think if you smoke marijuana, you'll be smoking harder drugs.
Marijuana here is soft drugs, like alcohol and cigarettes, and hard drugs is still strictly forbidden.
What's the age limit for people buying marijuana?
18.
18.
Yeah.
And how much can you buy in one visit?
5 grams.
How much is 5 grams of marijuana?
This is 5 grams marijuana.
Okay, so that's 5 grams. And if you wanted to buy a smaller quantity, what is 1 gram of marijuana?
It's about like a bud of this size.
Okay, so this is 1 gram. And how much would this cost? Probably
11. This
11
particular
euros.
strain, yeah.
Now you have a menu with a lot of variety.
Yeah, we got all the sativa ones, make you happy, giggly. We got the indicas, that's more sleepy. Got the organic ones, outdoor, and I got a whole bunch of pre-rolled ones.
Okay, so you can get the loose leaves or you can get pre-rolled joints.
Yes.
In the United States, we still have so many people in prison because of marijuana.
Yeah, but here we believe that it's better to tolerate than to put more people in prison.
Another example of Amsterdam's creative approach to social challenges is its red light district. Practitioners of the world's oldest profession flirt and tease in windows as they have here for centuries. When it comes to prostitution, the Dutch figure if it's going to happen anyway, rather than criminalize it, it's smarter to corral and monitor. The intention? Women run a safe, independent business. If a prostitute needs help, she pushes her emergency button and the police come. For this spectacle, browsers are welcome. The Dutch call their approach to social problems like this pragmatic harm reduction. They consider legislating morality to be counterproductive and remind me that we Americans lock up nearly 10 times as many people per capita as Europeans do. Beyond the red light district, nighttime Amsterdam has a relaxed and inviting charm. Enjoying this dimension of the city is my idea of a good time after dark. Canal boats treat visitors to a scenic ride, while privately hired boats of all sizes create their own ambience. As the street lamps come on, you'll enjoy yet another memorable dimension of this romantic city. This peaceful oasis is the Binnenhof. Originally an almshouse for devout women who served the church. Its humble chapel has served Amsterdam's English-speaking community since the 1600s. The pilgrims, refugees from religious intolerance in England, likely worshipped here before boarding the Mayflower for Plymouth Rock. Amsterdam has a long tradition of welcoming the persecuted. When the Netherlands won its independence from Catholic Spain back in the 1500s, the Dutch government outlawed Catholicism. But locals here conspired to give Catholics a place to worship, provided they kept a low profile. This 17th century merchant house looks normal from across the canal. But inside is a hidden Catholic church. Called Our Lord in the Attic, it dates from 1661, when post-Reformation Dutch Catholics were forbidden to worship in public. Imagine this small church crammed with worshipers. It's like a grand church in miniature. Jews also found safe haven in Amsterdam. Nearby stands the old 17th century Portuguese synagogue. While the Dutch were tolerating Catholics here, elsewhere, Catholic nations, in response to the Protestant Reformation, were expelling anyone who worshiped differently, and that included Jews. The ever-pragmatic Dutch smartly welcomed Jews from Eastern Europe, Spain, and Portugal, and put their business acumen to use building their economy. Amsterdam's thriving Jewish quarter was a babel of tongues, and this synagogue served its Portuguese-speaking community. It's a commanding structure, built in the 1670s when Catholics were still worshiping in secret. It survived World War II and still functions as a place of worship, with the Ten Commandments in Hebrew still shining down on the congregation. Whether Protestants, Catholics, or Jews, through the ages, the Dutch have given refuge to the persecuted, but they couldn't protect their haven from the Nazis.
This building, a thriving theater in Amsterdam's Jewish quarter before the Nazi occupation of the Netherlands in 1940, was part of that sad story. Visitors enter an assembly hall Nazis used for local Jews destined for concentration camps. Today, it's a thought-provoking memorial that makes an indelible impression on its visitors, whether tourists or school groups having a thought-provoking field trip. On the wall, thousands of family names represent the tens of thousands of Dutch Jews who were assembled here before being deported to camps in the East and death. And that included the family of Anne Frank. At the Anne Frank house, visitors learn the story of 8 Jews who, in 1942, went into hiding. They went behind this secret swinging bookcase into the attic above a shop and hid almost silently for 2 years. Among them was 13-year-old Anne, whose journal has inspired millions of people. You'll see how Anne's father, Otto, tracked the progress of the Allies after D-Day. And pencil-like, tracking how Anne and her sister were growing up in hiding. Anne's room is still decorated with photos and magazines, showing the idols, dreams, and passions of a 13-year-old girl. A small window letting in a splash of the outside world lifted her spirit. Then, one fateful day, the Gestapo came. All 8 were deported, sent east to concentration camps. Only her father survived. Anne died just weeks before the end of the war. Her handwritten diary inspires visitors, and her book has been translated into 70 languages. Visiting the Anne Frank house humanizes the horror of the Holocaust through the story of just one of 6 million victims. Nearby, the Dutch Resistance Museum takes you behind the scenes during the Nazi occupation and tells how the Dutch fought back. Pistols were hidden in books. With this corset stuffed with ration cards, a woman who looked pregnant helped feed both hidden Jews and resistance fighters. And courageous moms with strollers did their part as well. Resistance fighters falsified IDs. This student, wanted by the Nazis, disguised himself as a woman. While the Germans confiscated all radios, the Dutch secretly got their news from England via miniature radios. This one's hidden in a matchbox. The suffering was horrific. Many starved, and many barely survived on a diet of tulip bulbs. So your grandparents actually lived through this?
Yeah, the winter of 44, 45 was called the hunger winter, where people in the cities were starving and they started to eat tulip bulbs just to have something in their bellies. Grandparents starved so that children could live. And that entire generation of people is actually shorter than their countrymen. Today we eat well, and our young people are the tallest in Europe.
And eating well in the Netherlands today includes enjoying cuisine from some of its former colonies. Indonesian food is a popular choice. The ultimate meal here is a grand rice tafel.
Yes. So this is what we call a rice table, rijsttafel. And there's actually no starter, there's no main dish, there's no dessert. It's just a festival of different dishes.
Our waiter, Oscar, patiently tells us what each dish is.
Fried chicken, shrimp, sweet sour, pudi shrimp, fried egg, tomat, with sauce, fried banana, tofu soybean cake, beef with soya, beef with padang sauce,
I'm still thinking about the fried bananas.
vegetables, sweet sour vegetables.
I'll never remember all this. I guess I'll just have to try everything.
28. Yes.
And there's a proper way to try each of the 28 dishes.
Put the rice in the middle.
You put them right in the middle, and then the different dishes come on the side so that it doesn't mix.
Okay, so you don't mix it together. You want to appreciate each distinct step.
Can you imagine that tiny Netherlands today, once 250 years ago, had colonies all over the world? And these colonies, bishops and spices came from Indonesia, that were called the Spice Islands.
Wait a minute, Indonesia was originally the Spice Islands. And today, centuries later, we're celebrating the spices of Indonesia. Look at the connection. An entire museum is dedicated to the work of the great Dutch artist Vincent van Gogh. The Van Gogh Museum, laid out as a stroll through the story of Vincent's life, shows how intimately his life and art were intertwined. Van Gogh grew up in poor, rural Holland. From the start, he had an affinity for working people. In paintings like his Potato Eaters, a painting as dark and grainy as the soil itself, he gives these farm laborers the same dignity Rembrandt gave to merchants and aristocrats. As a young man, Vincent was very religious. He studied to be a pastor and did church work in poor communities. But this wasn't his true calling. He decided to paint, to capture the world he felt so intensely on canvas. He moved to Paris, and the City of Light opened up a whole new world of color. Vincent hobnobbed with the Impressionists. He studied their bright colors, rough brushwork, and everyday scenes. He painted shimmering reflections like Monet, cafe snapshots like Degas, still lifes like Cézanne, and self-portraits like nobody else. But Vincent longed to strike out on his own. In 1888, he headed for the south of France, arriving just as winter was turning to spring. Energized by the sun-drenched colors in the blue sky, in just 2 years, Vincent produced an explosion of canvas. His unique style evolved beyond the Impressionists. Thicker paint, brighter colors, and swirling brushwork that made even inanimate objects pulse with life. Vincent's ecstasy alternated with depression. Eventually, he was admitted to a local hospital. His letters home told of his great loneliness. While in the hospital, he found peace painting calm scenes of nature. But he also wrestled with his inner world, capturing spiritual scenes with surreal colors, twisted forms, and dark outlines. In this, one of his last works, the canvas is a wall of thick paint, with roads leading nowhere and ominous black crows taking flight. Overwhelmed with life, Vincent walked into a field like this one and shot himself. A stroll in the park is a good complement to a thoughtful museum experience. Somehow, Amsterdam manages to be both vibrant and mellow at the same time. You feel that best in Vondel Park on a sunny summer afternoon. It offers a fun look at the city taking a break. The park is popular with romantic couples, free spirits sharing blankets and beers, and young families. The easygoing hedonism here seems to say, inhale, exhale, and relax. Amsterdam offers everything a sightseer can want. And with a determination to embrace life, a visit here can contribute mightily to that ultimate souvenir of broader perspective. I'm Rick Steves. Until next time, keep on traveling. Tootsie. It's a progressive place, invigorated by a time-honored spirit of live and let live. Collar good, wardrobe good, hair good. I'm gonna have my zipper down on the urinal shop. Prostitutes who are unionized, taxed, and regulated, and marijuana shops that sell coffee. Feel all mucky and sweaty. The ever-pragmatic Dutch, smartly wrong.
sandwich thieves, back with more of the best of Europe. This time, we've got buckets of mussels, the best fries in Europe with mayonnaise, monk-made beer, crunchy waffles, and dreamy chocolate. Yep, we must be in Belgium. Belgium is one of Europe's great secrets. 500 years ago, a trade boom left it with dazzling art and architecture. And today it's re-emerging as the trade capital of Europe. For travelers, it's a breeze. Everything's close together, well organized, there's almost no language barrier, and the people, they're wonderful. Enjoying the highlights of Belgium, we start in Bruges, with Renoir canals, fanciful gilded architecture, serene Flemish masterpieces, and, according to locals, the best beer in the world. Where else can you bike along a canal, savor heavenly chocolate, and see a Michelangelo, all within earshot of a bell tower with a hyperactive carillon? Then we head for Brussels, home of Europe's most magnificent medieval square and capital of the European Union. Almost lost between Germany and France in the middle of Europe, tiny Belgium is easy to overlook. But we'll see why it's worth discovering. After exploring Bruges, we'll ride the train to the capital, Brussels. We're starting in Brugge, as the Flemish people who live in this part of Belgium call their town. The French-speaking half of the country and English speakers call it Bruges. However you choose to pronounce it, it comes from the Viking word for wharf. In other words, it's been a trading center for a long time. About 1,000 years ago, the city grew wealthy as the most important textile market in northern Europe. Back then, the city's canals provided merchants smooth transportation. Today, they provide visitors smooth tourists. A short cruise shows off the town's old buildings. By the 14th century, Bruges' population was 40,000, as large as London's. As the middleman in sea trade between northern and southern Europe, it was an economic powerhouse. In the 15th century, while England and France were slogging it out in a 100-years-long war, Bruges was the favored residence of the powerful and sophisticated Dukes of Burgundy, and at peace. Commerce and the arts flourished. But in the 16th century, its harvest melted up, trade moved to the port of Antwerp, and the economy collapsed, ending Bruges' golden age. The town slumbered for generations. Then, in the 20th century, tourists discovered the charms of Bruges. Today, this uniquely well-preserved Gothic city prospers because of tourism. Even with its crowds, it's the kind of city where you don't mind being a tourist. And it hides some sweet surprises. The people of Bruges are connoisseurs of fine chocolate. You'll be tempted by chocolate-filled display windows all over town. Locals buy their chocolates fresh daily, like other people buy pastries. They love the family-run places, like Monaco, where Madame Dumont and her children are hard at work. Their ganache, a dark creamy combo, wows chocoholics. Bruges seems to have a chocolate shop on every corner, and some are more adventurous than others. The chocolate hut, famous for its many gastronomic varieties, proudly shows off its kitchen. Everything here is lovingly made by hand. Some specials come with an extra dose of creativity. So how many different flavors do you have?
About 60 different kinds we have.
60. So what are some interesting? You must have some special flavors.
We have special ones like Cuban tobacco, or saffron curry, or ginger.
Cuban tobacco.
Yes.
Is that legal for Americans?
Yeah.
Can I try one?
Yes, sure, sir.
So how's this made?
It's a layer of northern plant, flavored by a tobacco of Cuba.
Cuban tobacco?
Yeah.
Wow. It's probably not as good as a Cuban cigar, but it's very good. The market square, ringed by restaurant terraces, great old gabled buildings, and the bell tower, marks the city center today as it did in its medieval heyday. Back then, a canal came right to this main square. Farmers in the countryside would ship their wool and flax into Bruges. Before loading it onto outgoing boats, industrious locals would maximize their profit by dyeing, spinning, and weaving it into finished textiles.
The bell tower has stood over Market Square since 1300. Climb the 366 steps for a commanding view. The tower houses a grand carillon. Rather than fingers, the carillon player uses his fists and feet. Amy Lombard, who's rung these bells since 1984, arranges his own music and enjoys sharing his art. Grab a bench in the courtyard to enjoy one of the regular and free carillon concerts. The opulent square called Burg, Bruges' historical birthplace, political center, and religious heart, is decorated with 6 centuries of fine architecture. The square's historic highlight is the Basilica of the Holy Blood. The gleaming gold knights and ladies on the church's facade remind us that this church was built by a crusader in the 12th century to house the drops of Christ's blood, which he brought back from Jerusalem. Inside the basilica, the stark decor reeks of the medieval piety that drove those crusading European Christians on their holy war against the Muslims. With heavy columns and round arches, the style is pure Romanesque. Stairs lead to the brighter Gothic-style upper chapel. The painting at the altar tells how the Holy Blood actually got here. Derek of Alsace helped conquer Muslim-held Jerusalem in the Second Crusade. Here, he kneels before the grateful Christian patriarch of Jerusalem, who rewards him with the relic. Derek returns home and kneels before Bruges' bishop to give him the vial of blood. Next door is the town hall. 15th century Bruges was a thriving bastion of capitalism, and this building served as a model for town halls elsewhere, including Brussels. One of Europe's first representative governments convened right here. In the adjoining room, old paintings and maps show how little the city has changed over the centuries. This map shows in exquisite detail the city as it looked in 1562, when a canal connected the North Sea to the market square. A fortified moat circles the city. Of the town's 28 windmills, 4 survive today. The mills made paper, ground grain, and functioned as the motor of the Middle Ages. My favorite way to explore Bruges is on 2 wheels. Just about anywhere in Europe where the biking's good, you'll find handy and inexpensive bike rentals. Get lost on the back streets, away from the shopping and the tour groups. Working up an appetite, you'll be tempted by the smell of French fries. Called Flemish fries here, they're a local specialty. And in Belgium, fries are an art form, taken very seriously. Who made the first fry?
Belgium. This potato was peeled this morning, cut in pieces, and put in that fat.
So you actually cook it in the grease 2 times?
2 times. Once in that, then it rests here. Afterwards, second time, high temperature. Low temperature, resting, cooling, high temperature.
These are forming a skin right now.
Yes, you see, these fries are swimming like fishes in the fat. See? They are, you hear it? They are talking. You hear
I hear it, yes. What are they saying?
Oh, that you are ready to be eaten. Ah. What do you need more? Taste one, please.
Is
At
it
the
hot?
top of the fingers because it's hot, yes.
Mm.
Only a little bit salt on it and it's perfect.
In the 1500s, rich men and women decided that lace collars, sleeves, and veils were fashionable. For the next 200 years, lace was the rage. It all had to be made by hand, and countless women earned extra income meeting that demand. This school makes sure that traditional lace making survives in Bruges. People from around the world come here to study these 400-year-old techniques. To make bobbin lace, which originated here in Bruges, women juggle different strands tied to bobbins, weaving a design with the many threads. Unlike knitting, lace making requires total concentration as you follow intricate patterns. Nearby, the Groothuis Museum, a 15th century mansion of a wealthy Bruges merchant, displays period furniture, tapestries, and much more.
This region was renowned for fine tapestries. They were popular with the wealthy, colorful, great for warming up big drafty interiors, and a fun opportunity for a rich guy to tell a story. This series tells of courtship and marriage in the early 1600s.
The scenes and their old French captions subtly spin a story of youthful lustiness that upsets stereotypes about medieval piety. Scene 1, called Soup Eating Lady, shows a shepherd girl with a bowl of soup in her lap. The flirtatious shepherd lad cuts a slice of bread. That's foreplay in medieval symbolism, and, according to the text, saucily asks if he can dip into the goodies in her lap. Nearby, another woman brazenly strips off her socks to dangle her feet in water. In scene 2, called The Dance, couples freely dance together under the apple tree of temptation and around a bagpipe, symbolic back then of hedonism. The wedding parade shows where all this wantonness leads: marriage. Music plays, the table set, and the meat's on the barbecue as the bride and groom enter, reluctantly. The bride smiles, but she's closely escorted by 2 men, while the scared groom gulps nervously. Finally, in the last scene, called Old Age, the now elderly husband is tangled in a wolf trap. The caption reads, "Alas, he was once so lively, but marriage caught him, and now he's trapped in its net." The merchant who lived here had it all. In fact, his mansion even had a private chapel with a box seat overlooking the cathedral altar.
This was the ultimate in church-going convenience. He could attend Mass and not even leave the house.
For 600 years, the Church of Our Lady has stood with its 400-foot-tall tower of bricks as a memorial to the power and wealth of Bruges at its height. Inside, reclining statues mark the tombs of the last local rulers of Bruges, Mary of Burgundy and her father, Charles the Bold. This delicate Madonna and Child is said to have been the only Michelangelo statue to leave Italy in his lifetime. It marks the tomb of the wealthy Bruges businessman who bought the statue in Tuscany. Mary, slightly smaller than life-size, sits while young Jesus stands in front of her. Their expressions are mirror images of each other, serene but a bit melancholy, with downcast eyes, as though pondering what lies ahead for the young child. Though they're lost in thought, their hands instinctively link tenderly. Just across the street, a monastery ran a hospital. It recalls how the sick were treated. It also displays masterpieces by the great Flemish painter, hometown boy, Hans Memling. Some 500 years ago, the nave of this former church was lined with the sick and dying. Nuns served as nurses. In many ways, this was less a hospital than a hospice. It helped the down and out make the transition from this world to the next. Rather than dying in the streets, they died here with dignity. Care was more for the soul than the body. Religious art reminded those suffering that Christ could feel their pain, having lived it himself. Today, rather than the sick and dying, the wards now house a handful of exquisite paintings by Hans Memling. Memling was a master of Flemish primitives. Primitive is not an insult. It was a 19th century term for the nostalgic, pure, and spiritual art of these highly skilled 15th century oil painters. Employed by and often portraying Belgium's wealthy, they captured their world in astonishing detail. Hans Memling's St. John's altarpiece was designed to comfort patients in the hospital. Gazing at this slice of heaven, they could imagine leaving this world of pain and illness and joining Mary and Jesus in a serene setting, listening to heavenly music and conversing with the saints. Memling's heaven echoes wealthy Bruges in the 1400s, showing the city skyline, oriental carpets that passed through here, fine furniture manufactured by the city, and the latest Italian fashions. In the right panel, Memling then takes us on a journey to the end of the world. John the Evangelist sits on the island of Patmos, transfixed as he envisions the apocalypse now. He writes down his vision, a revelation of the end of time, which eventually becomes the last book of the Bible, Revelations. Up in heaven, in a rainbow bubble, God opens the seals of a book, unleashing awful events, fires, plagues, and wars that stretch as far as the eye can see. The dreaded four horsemen gallop across the dreamscape, chasing helpless mortals who scramble for cover. In the St. John altarpiece, Hans Memling shows us the full range of his palette, from medieval grace to Renaissance realism to avant-garde surrealism, all in a luxurious setting somewhere between Bruges and heaven. Belgium is right up there with Germany, England, and the Czech Republic as one of the world's great beer countries. And when it comes to variety, Belgium is number one. If you're not up to sampling all 120 local types, go right for the hometown favorite, Straffe Hendrik, literally Strong Henry. The happy gang at this working family brewery gives entertaining and informative tours.
For the English tour, please, for the English tour. Good morning, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome in the brewery Straffe Hendrik. So this brewery started in 1856, but we know that there was a brewery here on this premises next to the canal in 1564. So in Belgium we have 120 types of beer, and that's because we like using all different types of natural ingredients. So if you drink Belgian beer, you might recognize sour cherries, kriek as we say, raspberries, chamomile flowers, licorice, ginger, juniper berries, honey, seaweed. As long as it's natural, it's okay. We really have a beer culture. We don't drink to get drunk, we drink to enjoy different types of beer and make quality time with friends. So I've had people all worried on tour if Belgian beer is healthy for them, if it's nutritious. Well, I can have a good answer to that one for you. Because it says here on this little poster that 1 liter of the Belgian lambic beer is exactly the same as 200 grams of bread, 180 grams of meat, and 72 centiliters of milk. What more do you want? I mean, it saves a lot of shopping, and it's a good excuse.
Who needs an excuse? When there's so many types to try and an inviting tasting room with friendly people, it's time to drink beer like a Belgian. We're catching one of the frequent trains that zip from Bruges to Brussels in about an hour. La Grande Place, Europe's grandest square, is just a short walk from the train station.
Brussels got a late start. 600 years ago, it was just a handy place to buy a waffle on the way to Bruges. Then it was given free trade status and its economy took off. By 1830, it was the capital of an exuberant and newly independent country, Belgium, booming with the industrial age. Today, with over 1 million people, it's the headquarters of NATO and the capital of the European Union.
Brussels Town Hall dominates the square. The fancy smaller buildings giving the square its unique character are former guild halls with ornate gabled roofs crowned by statues. Once the home offices for the town's different professional guilds, bakers, brewers, tanners, and so on, they all date from shortly after 1695, the year Louis XIV's troops surrounded the city, sighted their cannons on the town hall spire, and bombarded Brussels.
The French destroyed several thousand wooden buildings, but managed to miss the spire. As a matter of pride, Brussels businessmen rebuilt their offices better than ever, all within about 7 years. Today, they look down over the square, tall, in stone, and with richly ornamented gables.
The neighboring street, Rue des Bouchers, is Brussels' Restaurant Row. Brussels is famous for good eating, serving many cuisines. The city specializes in seafood. The most popular dish, mussels in Brussels. For some reason, every visitor has the mannequin piss on his list. Even with low expectations, this bronze statue is smaller than you'd think. Still, this little squirt is a fun, light-hearted symbol of Brussels. Traditionally, visiting VIPs bring the mannequin piss a costume. A nearby museum displays hundreds of his outfits. Today, he's a Venezuelan cowboy or something. For higher art, I like Brussels' two greatest art galleries, the side-by-side ancient and modern art museums. The Ancient Art Museum, featuring Flemish and Belgian art from the 14th to the 18th centuries, is packed with a dazzling collection of masterpieces by Van der Weyden, Bruegel, Bosch, and Rubens. Rubens' huge canvases graced palaces and churches far and wide. The Bruegel Room takes you back in time. Flemish artists like Peter Bruegel the Elder were masters of everyday detail. In his Census at Bethlehem, Bruegel gives us a bird's-eye view of a snow-covered village near Brussels. It's full of life. Kids throw snowballs and sled across the ice, and men lug bushels across a frozen lake, while a crowd gathers at the inn for the census. Into the scene ride a man and woman. It's the carpenter Joseph leading pregnant Mary looking for a room. Bruegel deftly synthesizes religious scenes and slice-of-life detail in a local landscape, far from the Holy Land. Peter Bruegel the Elder's son, Peter Bruegel the Younger, was a fine artist in his own right. In this painting, The Struggle Between Carnival and Lent, we see a classic battle between feasting and fasting. The robust figure of Carnival jousts with the haggard figure of Lent. Overlooking the square, the tavern and the church compete as a refuge for mortal souls. The attached Museum of Modern Art gives an easy-to-enjoy ramble through the art of the 19th and 20th centuries, from neoclassical to surrealism and beyond. The Belgian surrealist René Magritte used his training in advertising to push our buttons with a collage of bizarre images. He paints real objects with camera-eye clarity, but jumbles them together in new and provocative ways. People morph into animals, or chairs, and stairs lead nowhere. The surrealistic juxtaposition only short-circuits your brain when you try to make sense of it. And some of Brussels' top art is edible. Many tourists consider the local waffles a cultural highlight worth traveling for. While the people of Brussels love their fun taste treats, it's also a city of sophisticates. As the unofficial capital of Europe, the place is cosmopolitan and hosts businessmen from around the world. Though Brussels, like Belgium, is officially bilingual, most of the people here speak French first. Bon appetit, bonjour, and s'il vous plaît. Brussels is the political nerve center of the United Europe. Only Washington, D.C. has more lobbyists. When Europeans have a gripe, this is where they demonstrate. And the most impressive part of the city skyline these days is the classy headquarters of the European Parliament. Europe's governing body now welcomes visitors. This busy symbol of European unity is filled with a cacophony of politicians speaking the full range of European languages. Visitors listen to a political science lesson while viewing the chambers where the members of the Euro Parliament sit. Today, hundreds of Parliament members representing an entire continent are hard at work shaping Europe's future.
For centuries, Europe's cultural and political differences have led to war. Today's daunting challenge, to respect these differences while building a democratic, prosperous, and peaceful Europe. And a fun part of travel today is watching this story unfold.